So if you watched Miss Universe Nigeria recently, you might have noticed that the reigning Miss Universe Nigeria from 2024 was not present at the event. She didn't make any type of appearance at Miss Universe Nigeria 2025, which I think is super interesting because Chidimma Adetshina really made history for Miss Universe Nigeria at Miss Universe last year when she finished as the first runner-up, and not only that, she was the first woman to be crowned Miss Universe Africa. So for her to not even appear at the Miss Universe Nigeria finale this year is a bit odd. So let's get into everything we know about Chidimma and her falling out with the Miss Universe Nigeria organization and why she was a no-show at this year's Miss Universe Nigeria competition. Funnily enough, it does look like it all started with Nyekachi Douglas. If you guys don't know, Nyekachi Douglas was once crowned the most beautiful girl in Nigeria, which is a separate pageant from Miss Universe Nigeria, and Most Beautiful Girl in Nigeria, or MBGN for short, sends women to Miss World from Nigeria. So Nyekachi Douglas actually represented Nigeria at Miss World back in 2019, and you might remember her because she had this iconic reaction to Tony Ann Singh from Jamaica winning Miss World. She was super happy for her, and she definitively established herself as a certified girl's girl in this moment. Couple years later, she competed at Miss Universe Nigeria, this being last year, and she didn't win. Chidimma won, but then she wanted to compete again this year at Miss Universe Nigeria. Now, obviously, with Miss Universe, the international organization having changed their standards to allow married women and women with children and women of all ages as long as you're over the age of 18, etc. The Miss Universe Nigeria organization also made these changes to start allowing all of these different types of women with different backgrounds, and marital statuses and parental statuses and ages, etc. And so Nyekachi, being over the age of 28, was able to compete. And now, guys, the Miss Universe Nigeria has regressed back to the old rules. For 2025, they didn't even make a big announcement about this or anything. For 2025, they did not allow married women, women with children, women over the age of 28. They went back to the old rules, which I think is so insane. And I have personal beef with this organization for this reason, to be honest, because what the hell? Once you start being inclusive like that, allowing women of all ages and women who have children, etc., you can't just go back to not doing that. I mean, Chidimma Adetshina herself is a divorced woman who has a child, and she managed to literally put Miss Universe Nigeria on the map last year by getting first runner-up at Miss Universe, as well as being crowned Miss Universe Africa, and now they are electing to just go back to not allowing all women, which I think is absolutely sickening, and which I think is a core part of why Chidimma wants nothing to do with this organization. I mean, she's a mother, she's a divorcee, not to mention all of the drama and scandal that she was involved in South Africa. You would think that they would be more cognizant of the fact that women come in all types of backgrounds and nobody has a completely clean slate and nobody is this fresh-faced teenager. Women should be allowed to compete regardless of what their personal life looks like, is what I'm trying to say basically. And so they actually told Nyekachi Douglas, even though Nyekachi isn't married, she doesn't have children or anything, she is over the age of 28, which is the age limit at Miss Universe Nigeria right now. So Nyekachi tried to enter Miss Universe Nigeria this year, and apparently she was told by the organization to withdraw her application. They didn't outright, from what I could tell by the situation, reject her application. She was told to withdraw it. And I think that they didn't want to publicly have to state that they were literally regressing back to not allowing all women over the age of 18, which I think is just, it's so weird that they would choose to go back. I've never in my life even imagined that something like this would happen. How do you go from 2023 allowing all women over the age of 18, married, unmarried, parent, not a parent, whatever, and then now you decide to go back? It's not like the Miss Universe organization has decided to regress back to the old rules. But then again, when there was this video of the Miss Universe CEO, Anne, talking about how, yes, we are allowing all of these women to compete, the secret video that was made during their board meeting, and she was talking about, yes, we're allowing all of these women to compete, but it's basically just for marketing, and we know who's going to win. We're allowing mothers and older women, but we know who's going to win. And so far, that type of rhetoric has held up if you look at who the winners have been. But I digress. With that kind of thing being out there, it's no wonder that the Miss Universe Nigeria organization doesn't see it as a big deal to regress back to the original rules, because from what I can gather, those are the types of women who are gonna keep winning anyway, except if Miss Universe maybe does crown Pravina Singh, who is of course a divorcee this year, or something like that. My point is just this. I can understand why Chidimma has issues with Miss Universe Nigeria right now, because what they're doing is really shitty. Regressing back to the old non-inclusive rules when women with children, divorcees, women over the age of 28 are just as good as the ones we had before. The quality of contestants hasn't gone down, in my opinion, since Miss Universe made this change. I know that some people from the older generation, I'm talking 70 plus, they don't like that Miss Universe is allowing married women and divorcees and women with children. They feel like Miss Universe should be for the 18 to 23 crowd specifically. But, in this new age, I feel like these older women have been slaying. Women with children have been killing it. Divorcees, it's just, for me, I feel like, why on earth would they regress back to the old status quo when these other women are so incredible and on par in every single way to the women who were being allowed before? I just feel like we should be allowing all women, over the age of 18 to compete. And it's been working out amazingly since that rule has been changed. And I don't know why Miss Universe Nigeria would regress back. Anyway, so you guys know Miss Universe Nigeria's history with Chidimma. If you don't know, I'll just give you a quick rundown. Chidimma Adetshina actually was living in South Africa. She competed at Miss South Africa 2024. She was part of Crown Chasers, which is South Africa's reality show where they eliminate contestants every week up until finals, where there are 10 ladies left. And Chidimma was originally supposed to be part of the top 10, but I would say literal days before finals, there was a figure of speech bomb that exploded in South Africa, where it was discovered that Chidimma Adetshina's mother had apparently committed fraud around the time that Chidimma was born and identity theft in order for Chidimma to be registered as a South African citizen. She was born in South Africa, but her parents are not from South Africa and they aren't South African citizens, or they weren't at the time, but her mother did some shady, illegal things, allegedly, in order to be able to register Chidimma as South Africa. So, on paper, Chidimma was South African. She went to South African school. She assimilated to South African culture. She has the South African accent. I'm sure she speaks one or two South African languages, probably. Typically, South African. Chidimma is South African in every conceivable way, except for ethnically and genetically. Her father is Nigerian, we do know this. Her mother has questionable origins. And so the Miss South Africa organization, they didn't outright disqualify Chidimma or kick her out. The official story is that Chidimma resigned, but I would say that she resigned from Miss South Africa with the strong, advice of the Miss South Africa organization. They were like, Chidimma, it's either you resign and go with grace and dignity, or we're gonna have to disqualify you because, we can't have this. The literal government is after you and we don't want any part of this, you know what I mean? So anyway, Chidimma resigned, and not long after the new Miss South Africa was crowned, the owner of Silverbird, or one of the big shots over at Silverbird, which is the organization that owns Miss Universe Nigeria, sent Chidimma an invitation, like a public invitation. He made a video and everything, inviting her to join the Miss Universe Nigeria contestants, which had already been selected. He invited her to join them and to compete for the title of Miss Universe Nigeria, since her father was Nigerian. And at this point, I was even like, this is a bit, I don't know, it left a bad taste in my mouth, just because the ladies who were part of Miss Universe Nigeria, they didn't expect this new person to come, and they had to go through a whole process to be a finalist. But now the owner, or the boss, is seeing this opportunity for clout, because Chidimma's story in South Africa was getting a lot of attention in South Africa, but I think in the rest of Africa as well, and some parts of the world, because it had strong implications of xenophobia, which is a huge problem that's going on in South Africa, where South African citizens are not very fond of the idea of people from other African countries migrating to South Africa illegally in order to get work and opportunities in South Africa. It's a whole thing, but that's what it was about, and that's why it gained so much attention, because people were saying that a lot of people were just xenophobic against Chidimma because, she doesn't have the South African heritage and whatever. So there was a lot of publicity around Chidimma at this time, and so the owner of Miss Universe Nigeria decided that Chidimma was to be invited to join Miss Universe Nigeria last year. I didn't think that they would have the balls to actually crown her, just because a lot of these other girls would probably think that, at this point it must be a cooking show, because she was invited first of all, and now she's getting crowned. She didn't even grow up in Nigeria. I don't think she knows a lot about Nigeria, except for what she was able to learn through her father. She's basically South African, in everything except for legal citizenship and DNA, you know what I mean? So she went to Miss Universe Nigeria, she competed, they crowned her, and then she went over to Miss Universe. Chidimma at this point already had a child, she was already divorced, but she went to Miss Universe because it's allowed, And at Miss Universe, she did super well as well. She was first runner-up, and she got the title of Miss Universe Africa, which is amazing. So you would think that she would be super grateful towards the Miss Universe Nigeria organization for, allowing her the opportunity and whatnot. But one thing about Chidimma Adetshina that I really like, she will not be manipulated or coerced or anything like that. You know what I mean? Because Miss Universe Nigeria, they basically gave her the opportunity of a lifetime. After the Miss South Africa organization, she couldn't compete there. And she is still like, well, I don't think what you're doing is right. So, snip, snip. She's coming in with the big scissors and cutting ties. And I love that. She doesn't feel indebted to the Miss Universe Nigeria organization. I feel like a lot of women would feel indebted to an organization like this if they gave them this opportunity. Chidimma is just like, well, giving me this opportunity was on you, and now you're doing something that I don't like, and now I choose not to be associated anymore. And I love that. I love that. You know what? Truth be told, despite her mother's things that she had going on, illegally, allegedly. I quite like Chidimma. I feel like Chidimma is a woman of strong character and she's very steadfast, and I just feel like she has been through a lot in her life. Likely, I mean, she's divorced and she's a single mother, and so she just absolutely takes zero shit from anybody, and I love that. I love that about Chidimma. But anyway, so they told Nyekachi Douglas she was not allowed to compete at Miss Universe Nigeria 2025, although she had competed in 2024. She was not allowed to compete in 2025 because they went back to the medieval rules, where women over a certain age are not allowed, you know what I mean, and women with children and divorced women, married women, etc. And Nyekachi was like, okay, so they just told me that I can't compete, which is sad, but I don't know why. They didn't give me a reason. But then we discovered that they went back to the old rules, and I feel like Chidimma probably knew about this, and she was like, I'm not gonna sit here and be okay with you guys going back to these absolutely medieval rules when I myself am a divorcee with a child. You know, it just doesn't sit right with her moral character, I think, that Miss Universe Nigeria is doing this. And I quite agree. I don't feel like Chidimma owes the Miss Universe Nigeria organization anything. It was on them to let her compete. So they literally invited her. It's not like she went to Silverbird headquarters, went on her knees and freaking begged to be able to compete. They literally invited her. And so now they mustn't be surprised that a woman with a child and a marital history is upset that women with children and marital histories are being excluded and marginalized. Of course this would upset her, because that's who she is. I'm sure, like any mother, her child, the fact that she is a mother, is a core part of her identity. And for them to now turn around and marginalize and exclude women like her, it's gotta, you know, make her upset. And I'm not surprised that she was on that stage, smiling, crowning the next queen, being happy that all of the deserving women who could have competed didn't because of the new rules. I think it's absolutely ridiculous what the Miss Universe Nigeria organization is doing in terms of reverting back to the old rules. I just think it's ridiculous. But then again, we have this Miss Universe organization, the literal international organization, and there is this video that makes it look like women who are outside of the old status quo will never get the crown. And so far that's held up because all of the Miss Universes we've had since the rule changes have still been the like cookie cutter type of old regime type of girls. You know what I mean? I don't know whether or not that'll change. It probably will. You know, as far as women coming in, I think the women who are older, the women who have histories, the women who have children, I think those women really are some of the better contestants most of the time. You know, because they've lived. Especially women with children, they have such a high capacity for empathy and connecting with others. They're absolutely magnetic for that reason. Older women, you know, they've seen life, they've been through it. I think that in the next 10 years, we definitely will have a contestant who is either married or has children, or, you know, is older, like in her 30s or maybe even 40s, who was like Catriona Gray in 2018, who is so good, it would be impossible not to crown her. I think we will definitely start seeing women like that at Miss Universe, and the Miss Universe Nigeria organization is making a big mistake by excluding such a huge part of their female population from competing. I think it's a huge mistake. Since Miss Universe is allowing these women, I think everyone should have a chance, and the Miss Universe Nigeria organization, by reverting back to the old rules, are making such a huge mistake. Likely, a future Miss Universe Nigeria, who could have won Miss Universe on behalf of Nigeria, is now unable to compete because Miss Universe Nigeria has reverted, or regressed rather, back to the old status quo. Anyway, so I think that is why Chidimma Adetshina, our stubborn queen, I love her, has beef with Miss Universe Nigeria. Let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of you guys wanted Demi Lola to win Miss Universe Nigeria, but what do you think about the winner who did win? I'm absolutely disgusted by this organization and the choice that they've made to exclude so many women, even though Miss Universe does allow them. But then again, we haven't been seeing these women winning Miss Universe. Although Chidimma did get first runner-up, and she's a divorcee and a mother. I just feel like, just allow all the women. Over 18 is fair game. Just allow everybody. As long as they're over 18, okay? Nobody wants to be seeing like 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds on the Miss Universe stage. I don't know, maybe some people do, but certainly not me. Let me know what you guys think. I'd love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so sorry if this video was a little bit all over the place. It's not scripted. I'm just purely talking from all of the useless info that I've gathered in my mind over the past few years. But let me know what you guys think about all of this. I'd love to know. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!